Oh, that's a bingo. Is that the way you say it? That's a bingo? Asked the colonel. The lieutenant replied, You just say bingo. The colonel said, Bingo? How fun! But I digress. Where were we? Recognize this quote's movie? Stay tuned to find out or check out the title of this episode of Talking Pictures Trivia.
Welcome to Talking Pictures Trivia, the podcast in which a group of geographically challenged friends explore movies through trivia as an excuse to keep their friendships alive. I'm one of these friends and today's host, Nick, and with me is...
Tom
and KJ.
Additionally, joining us as a guest this week is...
Ragnar.
Thanks for joining us. Ragnar has joined us for 11 episodes, including Rules of the Game, Parasite, Chinatown, and The Batman. Ragnar conveniently likes movies. For those joining us for the first time, we start off each episode with a movie quiz, as these pivotal questions will determine who earns today's trivia crown. In round 1, each question is worth 1 point, and in round 2, each question is worth 2 points. Then, once the fierce competition is over, we followed up with our famous movie rant where anything goes. Tom, tell us about today's movie.
Walking up to the theaters in 2009, we would have had to choose between Julie and Julia, District 9, Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, and today's movie, Inglorious Basterds. Nick will be quizzing us today. Nick, what is Inglourious Basterds all about?
This movie is pretty self-explanatory. There is a group of American soldiers who are Nazi killers, and they go out and kill Nazis. The end. Tom, if you only had one word to describe Inglorious Basterds, what would it be?
Revision. Ragnar?
Tense. How about you, KJ?
Bingo!
And my word would be dairy.
It's time for question 1.
Who appears in the most chapters of The Inglorious Basterds?
Locked in.
Is it character or actor?
Character.
What?
When does a character transcend?
Maybe chapter 8 or something. I don't know.
I'm
Are there only 4 chapters?
Sure.
Transcendence is not easy.
KJ saw a really extended cut.
I'm also gonna lock in. I don't know if I know it, but I'm gonna lock in.
Locked in.
KJ, you're going to start us up.
Okay, I don't remember the names, but the woman that owns the movie theater.
Tom?
Yeah, I was gonna say her as well. Chauchion? What the hell is her name? We should know these characters' names when we do a podcast about them.
Joe Santa. Is that how Brad Pitt would say it?
Shosanna?
Shosanna. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I get you, KJ. Sorry. Ragnar?
It's going to be 3 Shoshanas, Emmanuel, or whatever, however you get.
Well,
Survivor.
you are all wrong.
Who was it?
It was Colonel Hans Landa. He was in 4 of the 5.
Which one wasn't she in?
Not all of them.
She's in the first one.
She's in the first one.
She's
not in the
Maybe the second one.
She's not in the one for sure where they're in the basement. And there was another one she wasn't in. I think she's...
Is he in the basement one? I know he investigates it after the fact. Is that part of the same chapter?
No, there was, and actually, of course, I don't have that sheet with me that had where I got all this stuff from.
That might be, yeah, because that might transition into...
So there's 5 chapters. I think she wasn't in the second one, the Inglorious Basterds, where you kind of like introduced to Brad Pitt and his crew.
But he wasn't in that either. Landa wasn't in that either.
Landa was in 1, 3, 4, and 5.
1, 3, 4.
3 is called German Night in
Paris.
Yeah.
She must have been in that one.
I think German Night in Paris is the game, the basement scene. And my only guess is that Landa comes in.
He goes to explore. He finds the shoe.
Yeah, that I thought that was in
Yeah.
the next
Yes.
chapter, but it isn't.
So that's the answer. But so no points will be awarded in the first question. But I was hoping someone would get it right so I could say that's a bingo.
You could still you could still say that with another question.
No, it had to tie
Not anymore.
It had to tie into Hans Landa because I wanted to talk about the antagonist because he is my favorite part of this whole film. I don't know if it's because he's in the most chapters and I didn't realize that. And I just see him a lot and his performance is great. But let's talk about the main antagonist in this film. And I would say it's him. Of course, you can say other things. I'm not going with the general Nazis and Hitler, which I know he's kind of driving the war, but I really feel like he's worth noting.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've never heard of the actor Christoph Waltz before this movie, and this one came out before Django Unchained, right? Or was Django Unchained first?
Yes, no.
Okay, this one's first. So I think this was the introduction to a lot of people to Christoph Waltz, and I think this is pretty much Tarantino's greatest gift to cinema is introducing millions to Christoph Waltz, because every single movie he's in, he just knocks it out of the park.
Yeah, he's pretty great. And it looks like he's having a lot of fun, even though he's doing terrible things, but he doesn't look like he's necessarily enjoying the terrible things. It's more, it looks like he's enjoying putting on a performance for us, really.
Yeah. I think he enjoys being the detective in this thing. And that's what he says. He's like, I'm a detective. Because I don't think the character really aligns with the Nazi propaganda too much, because he flips on a dime.
Right.
So I know, a very interesting character that just loves the process.
Yeah. And I think that's apparent when he orders the milk, right? Because he figured it out and he gets to show whoever's kind of paying attention, which I guess is really just the audience. But look, I know this, but I'm still going to have fun and toy with this person anyway.
Yeah, I will say I like Christoph Waltz in this. I'm not the biggest Christoph Waltz fan. If anybody's seen Carnage, I think he's actually pretty bad in it.
That's scraping the bottom of the barrel, I think.
Yeah, but anyway,
wait, the superhero movie Carnage?
Yeah, the Venom one.
Oh no. Carnage, based on with Kate Winslet and Tony Soprano. What's his name? It's based on
Gandolfini.
Gandolfini. It's based on the play God of Carnage that won a Tony a few decades ago. He's a scene chewer, which is what I sometimes have trouble with. But this is a movie about kind of the way a movie can revise and repair history. And so scene chewing and kind of B-movie references and fun is what this movie's all about. So he slots well into it. And I think what's interesting, the thing that's most both out of character and most interesting is when he strangles Diane Kruger's character, right? Because there's a moment there of actual anger. Because up to that point, he seems to be this like ballet dancer, right? He knows every language. He knows what's going on all the time. He knows how to hold everybody he talks to in suspense. And there's this moment where he breaks with Von's Hammersmark. And that's really interesting. Like, there is this kind of national pride, that apparently he has that causes him to respond in that extremely violent way. I will say that scene did take me out of it a little bit, but otherwise I enjoyed his scene chewing, winking very much.
I have a non-point question for all of you. Whose hands were the ones that actually strangled her?
It's got to be Tarantino, is it?
You're absolutely right. He had a very specific way that he wanted it to be portrayed, and it is Quentin Tarantino's hands.
Wow, I didn't
know
that.
Around her neck. That's all I know.
What was the way?
However it showed. That's how he wanted it.
According to IMDb, Quentin Tarantino doesn't like the way strangling is portrayed in movies. He thinks it looks very fake. So he said to the actress, "Hey, I'm going to actually strangle you so that we get it real."
Wow.
And that's probably why it was jarring, Tom. You know how you said that kind of took you out of the movie? Mm-hmm. That was probably his intent.
Yeah, that's not a good intent, but
still his intent.
Fair
Tom,
enough.
Did it take you out of the movie because the sudden violence of it, or because you felt it was out of character?
A little of both. It's odd. It's a very violent movie. it's a movie that purports to be very violent, but the movie isn't that interested in violence. The violence is actually fairly contained. And so that scene is so much more violent and personal than anything else we see in the movie that it took me out of it. And also, it's the one time we see him lose control. And he's losing control because a German is betraying Germans, which is what he's in the process of doing himself. So I'm not entirely sure why he's so particularly angry at this, Marlene Dietrich stand-in, right? That's what was confusing. I don't know. What about you, Ragnar, or anyone else? Like, did it take you out?
It certainly is a kind of like different to every single other scene of his, where he's always in control, never even loses his tone of voice. That's a good point. I think I don't really have a good answer for that. Something I'm gonna have to process.
I think it might be where he's seeing the tide is shifting, because that's when he soon decides that he may not be on the winning side. So there might have been some of that internal aggression just being forced out of him.
So you think he was doing it kind of like for his master plan of getting out rather than snapping because she betrayed Germany?
I think it might have just been his frustration that they were at a tipping point, and even people like famous German actress is working for the other side, and the game he was so masterfully playing had to be changed. Of course, in his mind and in his way, he found a way to do it, except he has a swastika on his forehead. But, he is a survivor.
But Ragnar, let's pull that thread, right? So let's say he
Yeah.
didn't kill her. Could he still have enacted his plan of switching sides and getting away, right? Because at this point, is he holding the bomb, getting it ready to put under the seat? Is that the idea?
Yeah, because
I think he's already put the bomb, hasn't he?
No, the bomb, he places the bomb afterwards because he has to finish with the actress, then Brad Pitt gets apprehended. He steals the bomb from Brad Pitt and then places it. So actually, I don't think it was a fit of rage. I do think it was part of his master plan, and I'm going to tell you why, and then also put in something I was going to say in response to KJ together. Ever since he saw that her shoe and her autograph was left behind in the basement, and he kind of figured out that she was a double agent. That's why, and this is to KJ's point about the character enjoying toying with people. He knows the Jews are hiding under the floor, but he still has a glass of milk. He knows that the actress is a double agent, but he still comes down to her and asks her about her accident. What happened? Where'd you get it? And when she says mountain climbing, he laughs uncontrollably, because he's just like, that's the best you could come up with to try to trick me, that you were climbing a mountain, so he was having a blast, and what's your name? And they respond, they tell him their name in bad Italian. And he asks them, can you say it one more time? One more time? He's toying with them. He knows exactly what's happening. So that's why I think the killing is part of his plan, but the passion behind it did seem surprising, to say the least.
It's time for question 2.
How many soldiers were in the initial group of the Bastards?
New recruits or everybody in that scene?
Everyone in the scene.
I'm going to lock in with a wild guess.
I'll do Price is Right rules, so
Okay.
Closest without going over.
I will say, I also think this is a flaw in the movie. The Bastards are not very distinguished. They're not very delineated. We get like a few who we recognize, and everybody else is sort of window dressing.
Locked in?
Yeah, locked in.
Ragnar, start us up.
Lucky number 7.
Okay, KJ?
Baker's dozen? I thought it was 12 and Brad Pitt, 13.
Tom?
I'm going to go with 10. Oh, I didn't include Brad Pitt, though. Is he a bastard or the leader?
He's a bastard. Everybody in the scene.
All right, 11.
He's a bastard, all right.
Yeah. What do we have? I bet it's 8.
The point is going to go to Ragnar. The actual answer is 9.
Ah.
Later it became 11. There were 8 Jewish members and 3 non-Jewish members of the Bastards. So the answer is 9. And this leads right into, let's talk about the protagonist. And I'm not just saying the leader, Brad Pitt. I think the Bastards as a whole. And Tom, you even mentioned it a little bit in your response there. How are they portrayed in this film? Is it just a title, a name, or are there actual characters behind it? So let's talk a little bit about these protagonists.
Are they? I thought it was Shosanna was the protagonist.
See, we can talk about that. I don't necessarily know if that's true.
They're both protagonists. They're both
Yeah.
characters we're rooting for. The irony of the ending is that if the Bastards never did anything at all, everybody would die, including Christoph Waltz's character. So they basically have function to save Mr. Landa.
I want to explore a little bit what KJ said, though, because there could be multiple protagonists. They're both trying to accomplish the same thing. They just don't know they're both accomplishing the same thing.
Yeah, there's multiple protagonists. The Bastards are also a fantasy of agency, right? That's how they function. They're what if you could fight back, right? What if you are if you could remember a situation in which you felt powerless? What is the fantasy of fighting back? And that's what we have here, is this sort of Jewish fantasy of fighting back and killing Nazis and being really, really good at it, right? And not only fighting back and killing Nazis, but killing the worst of the worst in the most brutal way possible. I mean, it's kind of a delight in that sense.
So what did they accomplish in this movie, right? We talked about if they did nothing, the theater probably still would have burned down. Maybe they were a good distraction for Christoph Waltz.
I don't think her plan would have killed Hitler, since he was in an opera seat. I'm not sure about that, because when they locked the doors, it was the lower level of the theater, I think. So I think Hitler and the other higher ups could have escaped easy.
Okay. But apart from that,
you mean apart from killing Hitler? Yeah.
Apart from ending the war?
What have you done for me lately?
Yeah, I think it goes to this idea of their revenge fantasy, right? I don't know. I think that's what they do for us. I mean, what is it? Most movies, this is what Pauline Kael said. She was talking about an Italian movie poster where it just said "kiss, kiss, bang, bang" on it. Like, that's the essence of movies, right? It's kiss, kiss, bang, bang. That's why we come. That's the fantasy. It's captured in the violence, captured in the sex, and the violence here it's almost squared, the fantastical or fantasy elements of it, because it's Jews getting revenge on Nazis. It's giving people that release, that means of dealing with historical trauma. I think that's what the Bastards do.
I think you're spot on into what you're saying. I think this has kind of been Tarantino's calling card in his later movies. Obviously, here clearly it's the Hitler thing, and with Django Unchained, which is a similarly styled film. It's kind of the slavery aspect, and then I don't know about Hateful Eight, but certainly Once Upon a Time in America, there is that kind of like revisionist, just term is escaping me, but just getting it off your chest, going, like you said, thinking about the time you were bullied and just going back there and standing up to him. And kind of that wish fulfillment, I think, is what he's been doing recently.
Yeah, and I think it even gets more sophisticated, especially with Once Upon a Time in America, which I think this movie is in conversation with, right? Which is that history is one way of describing what happened. The cinema is another, and the cinema can be our place of healing. We can say, we're going to revise this narrative. We're going to reject the historical narrative in place of the cinematic one. And we're going to do it not because we want to ignore the pains of history, but because it supplies us with a better way of living, right?
Just like Back to the Future.
Yep.
How about you, Nick?
My feeling was that is maybe where this movie fell a little bit short, was that it was spread out over too many parties. We didn't really get the background on all the characters in the group of the bastards. Tom mentioned this a little earlier in the episode. And even Shosanna, I didn't feel her plot line or arc was even that strong either. So you kind of got a combination of the two to get us to that final thread. But I always thought that the protagonists are fun to see their exploits, but that it didn't necessarily hold up that plot line. And I want to talk about that a little later in one of the other questions, getting into the plot. But that was my thought. Like, I liked elements of each one of the protagonists, but I really think they're all kind of jumbled together.
I don't agree with you about Shosanna. I do agree with you with the Bastards. I think that we get the great Hugo Stiglitz,
Yeah.
from who was a great B movie actor I think from Mexico, right? The real Hugo Stiglitz. And then we get the Bear Jew. But outside of that, you don't really recognize one from the other, which I do agree with you, Nick. I think that is a problem. I wish we had a little more character development within the Bastards.
All I was going to say is I wonder if some of that ended up on the cutting room floor.
Yeah, I just don't think it's too big of a problem because the movie is already so bloated. I feel like the Bastards are just one character, and
I
they have
agree.
many arms and many aspects to them in, manifestations of the Bastards, so to speak.
No, I agree. And this isn't a major problem for me. It's just like the one thing I could see if someone did have a challenge with this film, it might be in how the protagonists are handled.
Yeah. And just one real quick note. I do like the mystery of them a little bit, like Brad Pitt's Aldo character having that scar around his neck. And we don't really quite know why it's there, but it just provides a little layer to him. And it's better not to know.
At the end of round one, there is 1 point out there. Ragnar's leading with 1, and Tom and KJ have plenty of time in round 2 to put some points on the board. We'll be right back after this brief message from one of our valued sponsors.
Hello,
And
welcome back to
B-Side.
B-Side.
Finally, it is B-Side.
Today we're going to be talking about Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
We're going to be discussing the famous W.F. Murnau film from 1927, Sunrise. The Icelandic movie from 2015, Rams. Juzo Itami's 1985 picture, Tam Popo. And today I'm going to be talking about a good old film that we just covered, and this is 1984's Ghostbusters.
Talking Pictures Trivia B-Side, wherever you listen to Talking Pictures Trivia.
And we're back. We're at the critical point of our episode where we ask the guest a key question. If you could write your own sequel for Inglorious Basterds, what would it be, Ragnar?
Well, I've spent a lot of time thinking about this. Hours, days. I've neglected my family, knowing that you guys would ask me this question. So the best I could come up with is Aldo is not satisfied that the war is over and that some Nazis got away, that they've made it to South America. He can't abide that. But he needs somebody that's really good at tracking them down, of thinking like a Nazi. So he pulls out.
Oh, boy.
So he goes to Nantucket Island to take Hans Landa out of retirement. And the two, maybe with some other newly crowned Inglorious Bastards, go to South America, gather up the last of the Nazis, and the movie would be called Inglorious Bastards, The Nazi Hunter.
Inglorious Bastards, Boys from Brazil.
How about Landa and Alto, Inglorious Bastards Part 2?
There we go.
A buddy cop movie kind of thing.
Mhm.
That's exactly where I was going to say. Are we going in buddy cop territory here? Like that's exactly.
Yep. But then maybe at the end, Aldo kills Landa because he can't. He's like, look, we're not in America. So.
Mm-hmm.
I think they have the Jackie Chan, Chris Tucker chemistry going on.
A new trilogy.
You know what? Hollywood's done a lot worse than that, so it's not that far fetched.
I can't put the punchline together, but something with Brad Pitt and his accent saying, I can't. I got Landa because he could speak Spanish, and then Landa's like, I can't speak Spanish.
He goes, you speak second best Spanish. I don't speak Spanish. Like I said, second best.
Aren't they in Brazil?
But he still says Spanish.
Oh,
He
okay.
still says Spanish.
It's time for question 3.
Stiglitz is from Frankfurt. Wiki is from Munich. Where is undercover Lieutenant Hickox from?
Oh, locked in.
Locked in.
Undercover Lieutenant Hickox is the one we follow into the basement. He's like the lead.
Correct.
Okay.
He's Michael Fassbender, right?
Michael Fassbender, which this isn't an appropriate time to bring this up, but is he the guy that directed World on a Wire?
No. Who's Fassbinder?
What on the what?
It's no, you're thinking of Fassbinder.
I was like, man, he's so young. He must have been like 5 when
he wrote
directed.
it in crayon.
He was. Yeah, no, that's Fassbinder. Fassbinder was a German director of the New Wave.
Did everyone lock in yet?
No.
We're waiting on KJ.
Because I'm trying to figure out, do you need a city and a country?
Just put something down.
I need a not a country.
Okay.
Smaller than a country.
Smaller than a country. I'm picturing Mike Myers. They're like
Who
trying
I
to be
felt was the only miscast of the movie.
Oh, really? I
Really?
actually enjoyed.
Oh, why is that?
I was just like, what is he going to do? Austin Powers? It just took me out.
He was
Kinda
doing a
broke
different
the
character.
story.
Oh, do you know
Yeah,
who he's?
no.
Do you know who Ed Fenich is?
Ed Fenich, no.
That's his character's name. That's Edwidge Fenich was was an Italian actress from the 70s, and she did these things called yellow films, which are like these really kind of somewhat bawdy crime films, that type of thing.
all right. Locked in.
KJ always ruins it.
I love how that was time to cover KJ getting his answer out. So, KJ, you're going to start it up.
All right. I don't know, but I do want to mention that I had watched Wayne's World the night before watching this. So
That explains everything.
Yeah, I was waiting for a knot or he's asking him about the films. Do you know this? Do you know that? And he goes, oh, da, 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 da. Excellent. But it didn't happen. I don't know. Under the Shadow of a Hill or something.
In the Shire. Who was next? I lost track.
think I'm
We were
next.
talking
It
for a
was
very
me.
long time while KJ was locking in.
Yeah.
Well,
Tom.
Tom was first, so Tom goes last.
Oh,
Okay. Ragnar.
But he probably has the right answer. I can say he's from England because that's where he's really from. But the character he's portraying in the basement is from a little town in the shadow of a mountain, and it's like Pale Palu or something that I cannot pronounce.
Tom?
Pizpalu. Pizplu. Palu.
I'm not going to debate the spelling. I thought it was Pitz, but whatever. Pizpalu. He's from Pizpalu, of the village of Pizpalu.
Oh, is it
That's-
PITC? Okay. I'm sorry.
It might not be. That's where So yes, this is the basement scene where his accent is a little bit off. This film is a collection of settings, and the basement is one of them. The opening scene. I just wanted to talk about some of the key settings that we have enjoyed in this film or had issues with. So let's go for it.
The thing I like about the basement is I'm not a big fan of the theater. I just don't connect with it. And I feel like Tarantino is able to embed theater into his cinema.
Mhm.
That kind of like one location, pretty much a static camera, doesn't move very much, and it's just people talking. It almost feels like a 12 Angry Men or something like that. So I think that's why the opening scene and the basement scene kind of stand out, because they are so almost play-like versus the rest of the movie, which is more dynamic.
I think the whole thing is very theatrical, and I think that's also true in the performances. The performances are theater performances, but we're close to them, right? That's what differs a theater performance from a film performance. Just it's an issue of size, and the size is large, but the camera is close. I think the whole thing is very theatrical.
I really like the opening scene. I think the farm was great. Tarantino did a great job creating that farm, or even if it wasn't Tarantino, but the sounds, the walking on the boards, the way that people moved around the space was great. The basement was good. It was a little claustrophobic. The theater, how did you guys feel about the theater?
I mean, I thought every scene was amazing, and it served the story.
You weren't as fond of it, KJ?
This isn't an action film, but in a good action film or a good kung fu film, you have a really good sense of where everybody is and how the fight is progressing. And I never felt like I quite understood how that theater was put together. Like, I don't think I could walk around in it right now. Like, I couldn't draw it out. That's what I guess I'm trying to say.
Of all the scenes, the one that really grabbed me was right from the beginning, that scene at the farm. I mean, I remember that vividly in the movie theater, and I bought into the film from that moment on. So that was a big one. And the basement scene, I really enjoy, because I love that level of detail, and watching it this time, knowing the information I already had in my brain, allowed me to kind of dissect that dialogue and those interactions in a different manner. Ragnar, you mentioned before you enjoy watching Tarantino films multiple times. Those are the details that I can pick up. I was trying to figure out when the Nazi, I don't know what it is, lieutenant or officer, whatever he is, knew for sure that they were imposters. And after this watch, I believe he knew much sooner than he lets on. Much sooner.
Before the three?
The fingers, I think that was just the icing on the cake. That's what we hear from Hammerschmark or whatever her name is. But he knew for a fact. And the reality is, he says he knew any officers in the area worth knowing. He would know Stiglitz. The other officers, everybody knows Stiglitz, okay? He went to France to be executed. He would have known who he was, and he keeps hitting them because he knows that the guy can't do anything back. So again, is this just my theory?
No, I like this. I like this theory.
If you look at it through a different lens, it really makes that scene even more enjoyable. And he's a trivia master, when this other guy is supposed to have written all these books on movies, and he's trying to just shut him up with his movie prowess and knowledge. And this guy's firing back. So there is more than just, hey, I put up with the wrong fingers.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
I agree with that. Wasn't there a scene in it where what's the guy's name? The double agent German guy.
Hickox. Lieutenant Hickox?
No.
Oh, no.
Stiglitz?
Stiglitz. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Isn't there a scene in this basement where Stiglitz has a flashback when he's looking at this S guy of him getting whipped? Mm-hmm. And you don't see who's whipping him, but I imagine it was this guy, because why else would he have that flashback upon seeing this guy? Yeah. So if we can make that jump, then Nick, I think your theory is pretty spot on, because how would the guy whipping him forget such a famous guy? You know, he's escaped. Everybody in the German army knows who he is. I think you're onto something.
I hate that scene.
I don't hate that scene.
I don't care. I mean, I like this movie. I think the scene goes on and on and on. I find the game kind of boring. You know,
I really would love to know why you don't like it. Truly.
Oh, I just think it's very boring. I think it's a very boring scene. I think it's a lot of talking heads. I'm not overly fond of Michael Fassbender in that scene. I actually like when he switches to British. I like when he's in that room with Michael Myers. Oh, and who's the actor playing? Great old time actor, but I forgot his name. Who's playing Chamberlain? Churchill, not Chamberlain. Excuse me.
I was going to say, I'm pretty sure it was Churchill.
Yeah. But I don't like him.
Rod Taylor.
Rod Taylor, yeah.
I think there's a lot more going on that scene than you're giving credit, Tom. I think there's a lot
I think
going on.
it's pretty boring. I think Diane Kruger is great, and I really like her the way she plays that sort of regal attitude that people like Dietrich has had, you know, that kind of movie star thing. She's a really good movie star, Diane Kruger, and she's the thing that got me through that scene, which I thought was kind of took too long. You know, it's also like, if there's a guy on stage or on screen I wanted to be Brad Pitt. So you know, that was another thing I had. No Aldo, but only Fassbender was a problem. But that was the scene that took me out of the movie the most.
What about like the hostage situation at the end, that tense?
Yeah, that was fine.
Yeah,
that was fine. It just took a while to get there. You know, them playing the game where they determine it's King Kong was like, you know, what I thought was this.
Yeah, but he's trying to get them drunk so that when the confrontation happens, he's the only one who's sober. I mean, there's
Nick is going deep in this.
But it's not.
It's not exactly about the layers. It's about the excitement in the moment. I think the scene is most exciting when he said, "I would like to know," and you realize that there's another guy drinking, and the phonograph stops. I thought, oh, that's a great moment of tension. And then they played a game. I don't know, they did other things, and it took a while, you know. So
KJ, I gotta know where you stand on this one. Well, pro con basement. I mean, and why?
The one part Tom liked was my least favorite part: the reveal that there was another dude in this basement that was not very big. Why didn't we see him before? Like, again, now I can't draw the basement. Corner. He's in a corner. I mean, I've played D&D. I understand there's always people in the dark corners, but it wasn't even like a dim. Was he there the whole time?
No, he's in the corner reading Hickox's books on German cinema.
But do we see him before the?
No,
you not at all.
So he's an officer, and he's not interacting with the enlisted men.
Yeah, he's behind a wall. What wall? Again, like it seemed to come out of nowhere that there was another dude down there. You can't just throw somebody in like that.
Why not? I don't understand. Why can't you have a?
Because it has to be like a good kung fu movie. He has to understand the space before he's put into the scene.
Like German kung fu is very specific.
Or a mafia movie. You always have to have your back against the wall so you can see all the entrances and exits.
If KJ doesn't know where all the exits and all the bathrooms are, he's not comfortable with the scene.
Yeah, well, you don't have to be Stonewall Jackson to know you don't want to fight in a basement.
Amazing.
It's time for question 4.
According to the film, who do the bastards need to kill if they want to end the war? Whoever gets the most names right will get the points.
Locked in.
Locked in.
Everyone should get at least one of these names.
Locked in.
Ragnar, start us up.
Well, the obvious one is Churchill, of course. No, I'm just kidding, of course.
I was going to say.
No. Hitler, and then the pronunciation is what kills me. English is not my first language, but like Goebbels or something like that, and Himmler are the three that I can think of. I remember in the negotiating, Landa says you have to get those three to end the war.
I know they said that, but I think in the spirit of the bastards, it's every single Nazi. I think the only fair way to answer this is to name every.
That's why there's the sequel.
That's right. Nazi Hunter. We do get through them all. That's my answer.
Gentlemen, you have to kill Göring, Bormann, Goebbels, and Hitler if you want to end the war tonight.
Wow.
Damn.
Tom definitely gets the 2 points there, warranted, and will take down this episode. Interestingly, one of your answers, Ragnar, is probably correct. There was a few other major Nazi leaders that they left out: Albert Speer, Heinrich Himmler, and Karl, Donitz. How do you say it? But either way, those were all like the key in command, but
Yeah,
yes, the ones that they mentioned.
Borman was his secretary. So
Yeah. So those are the ones that they mentioned in the film, though. But again, we've already talked about it a little bit, but this is where I was going to explore the plot a little bit more, which may be to some people a little thin here. I still think it works and it's enough to drive this film, but let's talk a little bit more about the overall plot. And you can weave in, I haven't really focused on Shosanna as much either so far, because again, she wasn't as interesting as I wanted her to be on this rewatch, but that's just my opinion.
Well, she's burdened with that first scene. You know, she's the survivor of that opening scene, and it's hard just for anything else in the movie to live up to that.
Yes.
So I think it was difficult for that character. But I think the plot's great. It's it's just different pieces coming together, and I believe that if both plans weren't in action, the overall plan of killing Hitler would not have worked. So it was kind of like just a blessing of accidents that come together, and it's just fun to see the pieces fall into place.
Yeah, I actually really like Shosanna. I like following her plot. I think I love the scene when I wish I should have looked up the name of the song, when she's preparing for the giant face, and she puts the Indian makeup underneath, which sort of makes her like almost like one of the bastards, right? She kind of takes on the role of the vengeful Native American scalper at the end. I think that actress is lovely. When she says goodbye to Marcel, her lover, and there's that kind of little tearful moment. I would say the one thing that took me out with her performance was after she shoots Zoller and she goes over to him, she has this like moment of compassion, which is very odd. I don't know why that was there or why that was necessary. But I found her very, very compelling. I loved her anger. I loved her sarcasm. Her little like, if you want a girlfriend, you should go to Vici, things like that. I thought she was a delight. I disagree. But again, my favorite is Aldo. I really love how Brad Pitt says Nazi, and these various things.
What did you think about the movie Nation's Pride?
Well, yeah, we haven't brought up Frederick at all. I thought his story was okay, right? Like,
absolutely.
Daniel Brühl. Mm-hmm.
I mean, so he war hero for the German side and sounded terrible and awful. And now they're making a movie about it, and he's forced to sit in that theater and like relive that. Like that was at least a little bit of a character arc development. He's one of the few characters that went through a change, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would agree there. And even when I'm talking about Shosanna, it's not that I didn't think she did a good job. It almost was like buying time to get me to the other scenes that I really enjoyed. So that's the only reason. I'm being really picky here because I did really enjoy this film.
Especially that scene when she says goodbye to her lover. I think that is the best piece of acting in the whole movie. Because a lot of times those moments, I don't know, words only kind of diminish love. And how do you express love, especially the last time you're going to see someone that you truly love? So them kind of just looking at each other and her kind of breaking down a little bit and stroking his face. I thought that was a beautiful scene.
Yeah, she's also Tarantino, right? She kind of stands in for Tarantino.
Oh, what do you mean by that?
It's revenge of the giant face. It's revenge of the cinema. Right. And that's what she gets revenge in the same way he's kind of helping people get revenge a little bit.
It's time for Movie Rant.
I'll start with what could have been a bonus question. Again, we don't have to formally lock in.
Is it 68, 150, 32?
Absolutely not. What I was going to ask, Hans Landa is a pretty smart guy. How many languages do we know he speaks?
Yeah, I was going to say 4.
I was going to say 4.
Yeah.
That we know of, yes. He speaks English, French, German, and Italian. But I bet you he probably knows Spanish too.
Oh
the
yeah.
Romance languages.
If you know Italian, it's not
Yeah, I would bet
the
you
biggest jump in the world. Yeah.
that.
Just a quick question about the at very end of the movie. Brad Pitt carves the final swastika, and he says, "I think this is my masterpiece," while staring at the camera. Do you guys think that's Tarantino talking to us?
Why not?
I'm going to answer for KJ. KJ's going to say no.
It's the movie.
Just because I didn't like it doesn't mean
No,
Tarantino
I know.
didn't like it.
Like, I mean, he's staring right at the camera and he goes, whatever. I
Mhm.
forgot the character's name for Little Man. I think this is my masterpiece.
I think
I
it's
don't know, I
more
think that
in a
was pretty
joke, though.
straightforward.
I don't think he's being serious with it, though, because I think he knows what he just created, right? This isn't a serious war reenactment. He's having fun with this, revenge flick, rewriting history. So I think it's in a more jovial manner.
Why is joviality a rejection of something being a masterpiece? Right? Yeah, you ever see like Jan Steen paintings? He was a Dutch artist, and he paints masterpieces, but they're very like one of his masterpieces in the Met is like a big picture of him and his wife, and they're drunk, and like his wife has got her hand on the leg of like a musician in this kind of like bawdy way. And he's clearly having a great time painting his wife like this. Like he's not like judging her or whatever. He's just like, isn't this hilarious? But it's this like masterpiece painting, and it's utterly jovial and utterly fun. And I think this movie has a bit of that kind of Jan Steen energy, right? It has that, it has that idea of like, I'm going to be so ballsy. I'm going to kill Hitler in 1944. And I'm going to have like a troop of Jews save people from the Holocaust. It's, it's cinema as salvation, cinema as saving the world and saving us from the history, saving us from our past, right? It's pure cinema, right? What is the project called? The operation is called Operation Kino, Operation Cinema, right? And that's, I think, what Tarantino is engaged in here. He's engaged in Operation Cinema, and he does the same thing in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, where he wants to save this beautiful young lady from this horrible viciousness that destroyed the 1960s. And so he does. He just does it because, you can actually do these things. And I think I don't know about masterpiece. That's a strong term, but
well, that's what I'm saying. There is some subjectivity to that, but there is also a quality of artistry, skill, or workmanship. But you're right. That doesn't mean it can't be of a certain genre or portrayal.
Or it could be a masterpiece. Yeah.
Well, I do think up to that point, remember, this is before he did Django and Hateful Eight and Once Upon a Time. I think this is Tarantino having the best time he's ever had making a movie. It feels like he's having a great time. I don't think it's topped until Once Upon a Time, where I think he's just really having the time of his life. And while I still prefer Pulp Fiction, I know there's a lot of haters here. I do think
no, there's one hater here. I'm not a hater. I've enjoyed that movie.
Yeah, I love Pulp Fiction because of, it was just a moment in time. It's phenomenal. But I do think this is his best crafted, finely polished movie. There's so many small moving parts where even the side character of the sniper is an engaging piece of cinema.
Kind of like Kill Bill.
Which volume?
True. I'm saying in Tarantino's point of view, I think he thinks this is his best movie.
I will agree that this movie seems like he's having a lot of fun making it. Like that seems like it jumps out at me every time I watch it, which apparently was only a few, but this time for sure, like he's having fun making this film.
Yeah, and Brad Pitt is having a lot of fun.
Yes.
With that character. I mean, that's
yes.
That's a great, I want my scalps. I like these little line readings he does. And Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is in conversation with this, but Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is also about trying to save an era that Tarantino grew up in, the 1960s in Los Angeles, right? He wants to redeem that because the violence that ends it's but the murders were December of 1969 and ends it literally ends the 60s. And he's saving something almost from his childhood. So there's that kind of the pain of longing that is nostalgia that's in that movie. So it has a sort of, even though that movie's hilarious at times, the ending is hilarious in that movie. But there's still, I think, more of a pain there than what we see in this film.
I haven't watched Once Upon a Time in Hollywood yet, and I plan on doing so. But just like Ragnar was saying about how much fun he had making that film, he actually wrote his debut novel, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, to further elaborate on stories and characters that he couldn't fit in this film. So you want to talk about passion about a subject material? This is one. And again, we're going back to 2009 when he did Inglorious Basterds. This was definitely his latest obsession, this Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. So I am looking forward to finally watching that. In fact, I even had it on a potential list of movies for us to go over, just so I have an excuse to turn it on.
Yeah, you should absolutely watch it. And I think he was also, there's a show within the movie that I think he wants to make into an actual show. So there's just so many parts of this movie that he wants to expand on, the novel, the show.
The Tarantino verse, huh?
Exactly. Which there is, all the movies are within Tarantino's verse, which is great. Some of them are movies within the movies. But
Machete is
yeah, like I think it's all about the cigarettes, the Lucky Strike or something like that, or I don't know what the name, Red Apple or something like that. But the cigarettes are consistent throughout his movies, and they determine whether it's a fantasy within a movie. Like Kill Bill is a movie within the Pulp Fiction universe. Too long of a rant. That's not even what I want to say. I just want to, Tom, you kept talking many times about Aldo, and I do think he is the best character. And I think Brad Pitt should get more credit than he does receive about his acting, because he's a very physical actor. He moves very well and very different. Like I was watching a great Western called The Assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford. You didn't like it.
I didn't. No, I'm sorry, friend. But please go on.
In those movies, he just moves differently. In Snatch, he's like this fight, so fluid. In Jesse James, he's stoic. He barely moves. And here he leans in at the right time. His snuff that he keeps using throughout the movie. I think he's just a very physical actor, and he does just an amazing job. And it's those small details that create the illusion and don't get enough credit, in my opinion.
Brad Pitt doesn't get enough credit.
Poor Brad Pitt.
He's had a rough life.
Yeah, he's had a hard one.
Maybe they'll take a collection out for him.
Go fund me.
Go fund Brad.
We all probably have in one way or another.
Yeah, seriously.
Or would you like to get the final word on the spelling of Pizza Paloo? So, in German, it's Pizza Paloo without a T. If you do the English translation, it's Pizza Paloo with a T. So everybody wins.
Well, it's a mountain between Switzerland and Italy, so there you go. Whatever. It's
Speaking of mountains, Tom's sitting on top of a mountain of points this week, and I'd like to congratulate him for winning this one. He earned it, let me tell you. He knew all the key members of the Third Reich. Congratulations.
Goebbels.
Very, very well versed in Nazis.
He's like, I knew one day that would help me. You can find more of our content wherever you listen to podcasts, on our YouTube channel, Twitter @Talking Studios, and our website, talkingpicturestrivia.com. We're extremely grateful to all those who subscribe, like, follow, and leave a review. Do you think the spelling of the title hurt the SEO? Why or why not? Let us know on Twitter, talkingpicturestrivia@gmail.com, or give us a call at 201-467-8679. Thanks again, Ragnar, for joining us today.
It's my pleasure. I'm always happy to be here.
And we're happy to have you. That was my sincere voice.
Oh.
Yeah, it barely exists. You can find me on Twitter at Thomas Lehman 15. And there, I promise there will be a Talking Pictures Trivia B-side. I have one more week in the semester. Let me get it done, and then I'll produce more content for you.
You can find me on Twitter at KJ10001000.
I can also be found on Twitter at The Nicknamed. Join us next time as we start our book adaptation block to prepare for the new Jurassic Park movie, where we discuss Tom's recommendation from 1987, The Dead. Stay tuned for our first impressions of this film.
Ding, 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 ding. Hey.
Next week, we'll be discussing The Dead. Tom, how was your read and watch?
I saw this movie in, I think, a film class or in college. I don't remember if it was in a class or just in college on a recommendation. And I had read the short story a number of times back in high school and a few times since then. And I really loved this movie. And it's hard to, which I think is obvious because I brought it to the show. It's actually kind of hard now to remember a time when revisiting the story that the movie wasn't interfering in my imagining of the story, because the movie's been with me for so long at this point. But I brought it for this chunk. This chunk is adaptation. I brought two Walter Huston movies, both of which I think adapt in very conventional ways, in the sense that neither of them are concept films. However, I think this adaptation is extremely smart and interesting to talk about as an adaptation, because it's taking this like story that really isn't dramatic and giving it a sort of dramatic life to it in a very subtle way. And I really find that very appealing. And I also have to say that this is one of those movies that no matter how many times I see it, it always kind of makes me crack up a little bit at the end, which has become all the more true the older I get. Is, as you grow older, and I, kind of like actually have had similar experiences to Gabriel, the movie becomes all the more poignant. Chris, how was your first impression?
Watching this movie was a brand new thing for me. I've actually never read the short story or book. And when I signed on to do this episode, this was going to be a brand new experience for me. I have to admit that I was skeptical when I watched like some of the previews and read some of the synopses of it, but I ended up really enjoying it. I thought it was a little bit on. I could see how a lot of people that might watch this for the first time might think it's a little slow. There's a lot of monologues. There's a lot of different, just like watching these people dance. But I think the way the characters interact is very interesting. And I think that if I was watching this movie as a 20-year-old, I would have definitely tuned out within like 15 minutes and been completely tired and shut it off. But as somebody that's a little older, I do kind of start to see a little bit of myself in some of these characters. And I think you just said that actually. And it made it a little bit more poignant, and it made it a little bit sadder, I guess, a little bit. But it was definitely like you're experiencing a little snapshot of all these people's lives. And I want to say they're all acting. They're all acting in this moment. This is not who they truly are, I don't think. But it was interesting, and I really did enjoy watching it, even though I didn't have any conception of what I was actually getting myself into when I signed up to watch it. What about you, KJ? What did you think?
Well, before Tom mentioned the movie, I had never heard of The Dead. And Tom was kind enough to send us the short story. So I read the short story, and it was lovely. It was a lovely read. It's very witty, right? There's a lot of good banter in there. So I thought the short story reminded me of Gosford Park or maybe Downton Abbey. I haven't seen very much Downton Abbey. So I said to my wife, Rachel, I said, hey, Rachel, I got this movie. I think it's going to be like Gosford Park or Downton Abbey. Although Tom says, well, mixed messages on if it's similar to Gosford Park or Downton Abbey. And we put it on and we're watching. And I laughed at the horse joke. And Rachel gave me a look because she was pretty bored, and we were pretty bored with this movie. But I will say there's a line in a Dream Theater song The song's called 6 O'Clock, and it's from this movie. And it's, I think the quote is, "I know all about the power of God, Mary Jane." And I always thought that was a Spider-Man reference, but it turned out it was from James Joyce's The Dead. How about you, Nick? How was your watch?
I had not read the short story or seen this film before, and I don't think anyone would confuse me with a Joyceaholic. But this was a first watch for me. And what I will tell you, I don't think I've ever been more excited in my life for an episode, because I have no idea what Tom is going to bring to us to the table here to talk about. So I'm thrilled. So I can't wait for next week to see what we're all about. For those interested in watching The Dead, it is presently available on Hoopla at the time of this recording.
Tense. How about you, KJ?
Bingo!
And I forgot what my word was going to be. Hold on.
Did you fall asleep during the third chapter?
I had a good one.
Don't cut this out, KJ.
And my word would be, I don't remember it.
Milk? You can say bingo, I guess.
It was going to be
Double
bingo.
bingo?
Sorry, guys.
Yeah, I can't think of any other.
Hunter. There's a lot of hunters. Everyone's hunting each other.
Floorboards?
Oh, I got it. Got it. And my word would be dairy.